Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this video is going to be on Man of Nature by Dr. Vincent Red Fox James Jr. An article taken from the Rosicrucian Digest, Volume 18, Number 7, August 1940. Man of Nature by Dr. Vincent Red Fox James Jr., Ph.D., MIC, Second Assistant Great Sachem of the Indian Association of America, Inc. Everywhere on this great continent of North America there are imprints of a noble and picturesque race, which once roamed about it for centuries. Their names are in the forest, lakes, rivers, and streams. Of all races, we know none more favored by divine providence than the native red race. They were as free as the winds. Nature was their provider, and they respected her with the greatest reverence. They knew the habits of the animals that roamed the valleys, the names of the trees and flowers of the forest. Their whole lives were spent in observing nature in all its splendor. Their first law was health, to commune always with nature, that the body, mind, and spirit might keep wholesome and pure. Thus, they developed splendid physiques and lived long lives. They existed many tribes, and they were located in various parts of the continent. Each tribe spoke its own language. They had a well-established universal language known as the sign language, by which they traded with one another. They lived in a somewhat different manner than did others. Those who were living in the rocky and dense forest country depended mostly on game, and in seasons they gathered wild rice, roots, nuts, and fruits of the forest. Others who were favored by soil and climate had a perfect farm combination of corn, pumpkins, beans, and squash. The beans twined up the corn stalks without other aid. The squash shaded the ground and kept down the weeds. All was done with one hoeing. Among other foods cultivated by the Indians were potatoes, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, lima beans, kidney beans, and chili peppers. Cotton and tobacco were also cultivated by them. They made use of maple syrup, cranberries, and other edible wild berries, fruits and nuts, which grew in abundance in their native soil. In the season of the planting moon, the Indians had a special ceremony by which they sought supernatural blessings for a good harvest. Thank offerings were made at harvest time, when all took part in feasting and merrymaking. All tribes preserved great quantities of food for the winter months. Each Indian tribe had more or less a social form of government. They all worked for the common good. The tribes varied in population. Some tribes consisted of thousands, while others were composed of a few hundred. Each tribe was composed of units, each under the leadership of a chief. These were known as clans. Each clan had its own name and totem, and marriage was consented only when a member was from a distant clan or a person from another tribe. Place of habitation was so arranged that clans established themselves in proper order. The council lodge was a distant dwelling where the affairs of the tribe were presented for consideration. They had also fraternities within the tribe for men and women. It was from these fraternities that the members of the tribe gained their knowledge of various activities of their culture, which was handed down from one generation to another. The Indian women had a voice in council and a vote in all tribal affairs. They were a religiously inclined race of people. Their religion was associated with them in everyday life. While they believed Mother Nature had many powers, they truly believed in a supreme power who governed and directed all things. They called him by various titles: Great Spirit, Great Mystery, Great Architect, and Maker of all. The medicine man's duties were of great importance in the everyday life of the red man. The members of the tribe looked upon him with great respect and extreme honor. The knowledge and wisdom of the medicine man consisted of the great familiarity with herbs and their prophylactic qualities. He was called upon to heal diseases, to perform surgical operations, and to give spiritual advice. He was familiar with music, the law of rhyme and harmony, the use of vowel sounds in songs and chants, the effect of sound, light, heat, and color upon every living thing, and upon the human system, especially the inner emotional system of man. He was an authority on tribal laws, governmental laws, and interceded to adjust laws when they began to affect the standing of the tribe. The preparation of a medicine man took place from early boyhood. The one chosen was put through the most rigid test by his elder. Having succeeded in this, there were before him many years of study, by which he proceeded to gain his knowledge and wisdom from nature in its various aspects. The studies of the medicine man were not only those of medicine, but also those which involved their very existence. He learned by consultation, through observation, analysis, and the study of plants and their effects. The seasons, the tides, the winds, the storms, and the habits and movements of every living thing. Not until he proved himself worthy of the title medicine man was he given the authority to perform his duties. The Indian ceremonial peace pipe was held very sacred. No council was opened or treaty made without first performing the peace pipe ceremony. Smoking the peace pipe was an act of reverence and friendship, the history of which is one of the most beautiful known narratives of Indian tribal life. It has its inception from the Mayan Indians of the Yucatan, Central America, who had a great civilization where elaborate temples were erected. It represents the reincarnation of the spirit or soul and regeneration of the breath of life. The pipe stone was quarried with prayer and was used for no other purpose than to make altar stones, sacred beads, and bowls for sacred use. The stem of the pipe is of wood or reed, symbolic of the vegetable kingdom. The pipe is generally decorated with eagle feathers to symbolize the animal kingdom. These, while attached to the stem, were given considerable play and left to wave in the wind, emblematic of free motion of animal life. With the burning of tobacco were represented the four vital elements of life: earth, liquid, air, and fire. Such a pipe was a small sacred temple which could be easily carried about. The American eagle, the most majestic of birds, was the national emblem of the red race of America. The eagle to the Indian symbolized nobility of spirit, perfect courage, vision, and wisdom. The birthplace of the eagle is in a nest built upon the highest tree in the deepest forest or on a high pinnacle of rock. This royal bird is reared in hardship and inured to storm. He views the earth from his high station and sees all that goes on about him. He fears nothing, for he has learned his lesson from the north wind and the thunder cloud. Indeed, he is often represented by the Indian as bearing the lightning on his back. The language of the eagle tail feather was conferred upon the braves and warriors in recognition of some heroic deed. The feather might be painted or marked in some way so that any stranger would know at a glance the reason for which it had been bestowed. If he wore more than one, the grouping would indicate whether he received them all at once or on different occasions. It might represent the rescue of another at a great risk of himself, or the saving of his band from starvation by success in a difficult scouting trip for game in midwinter. The basic idea was not that of war and destruction, but of self-sacrificing service, never to give up, but to keep striving to achieve the highest attainment in life. The red race of America has given to us much that is wonderful in the arts, both fine and useful, which should not be forgotten. From the red race, the world has gained a number of the most valuable agricultural products which it uses today. their knowledge of herbs used for medicine, many of which are being used by the medical world, their skillful handling of raw materials which were converted to their use, their love of decorum and ceremony, their interpretation of the spiritual life and the hereafter. These are the subjects of some of the lore that has come down to us from the original Americans. The memory of the red man of this great continent of North America will always live. He has left his impression in the forest, lakes, rivers, and streams for the coming generations to see. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.